Welcome to the Optimal Bio podcast. At Optimal Bio, we don't just balance your hormones, we balance your whole body. Our conversations range from nutrition to medicine with an emphasis on wellness tips to support your health journey. If you like what you hear, find us on the web at optimalbio.com and follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Welcome to another episode of the Optimal Bio podcast. Today I'm joined with Eric and Erika, the owners of OPHT Gym in Apex, North Carolina. So glad for you guys to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I'm excited to talk all the things because you guys do all the things at your place.
All the things.
A lot of things, yes.
So just kind of start with, introducing, both of you and kind of what led you to opening your space.
So I'm Erika Hoeckberg, here with my husband, Eric. So it's great to work together. I'm sure everybody understands working with your spouse. It's, beautiful. No,
Beautiful.
In all seriousness, I think that's one of the best things that we've been able to work on and develop during this time together is we have gotten stronger as a couple. And I think that trickles down into our community, to our family, to our staff. In this gym environment, I consider myself a mental strength coach, but in the real world, I'm a mental health professional. I think the name just sounds a little bit easier in a gym environment. Health is there's still a big stigma there. I feel strongly that we're breaking it. We're trying to be cutting edge in what we're doing, which is a lot different than normal gyms, if you will. So I guess I'll go into what Omnia Paratus is. Well, it means ready for anything. And Omnia Paratus is a state-of-the-art training facility that offers personal training ranging from small group training, one-on-one personal training, exercise therapy, and physical therapy. We consider it a one-stop shop where individuals of all ages address every aspect of their physical, mental, and emotional health. Everything at Omnia Paratus is guided by a coach or a therapist to maximize the client's result and overall experience.
I love it.
To my person, my name is Erika Hoeckberg. I'm her husband. We get to work together. And I've been a strength and conditioning coach now for almost 20 years in this field. Have worked with high school, collegiate, professional athletes in the past. Have done a lot of work in rehabilitation and pretty much just started combining all those things into and kind of like merging all these things into kind of like one approach. Because honestly, like the fun part is like the things that we do and that we think people do in performance training are the same things that are applied in rehabilitation training if applied the right way. And that's what I think most people might not like consider happening. But it's like, it's really just a matter of like the application and understanding the whys and the hows. And like, if done correctly, like all these things apply at the same time. And it's beautiful to see how it can have an impact on people's bodies, on people's health in general, and all the way up into how people like react to it mentally.
Yeah, I think you guys really epitomize that, working out affects your entire life. It directly impacts your mental health, how you show up for yourself, your family, your work. And so like the services that you show and your foundation really shows that. I always joke like the athletes have a team. I'm like, okay, I can't be like Russell Wilson and spend $1 million a year, but like, how can I have a mini version? And, it's just like, it's really cool what you guys are building to give that to the non-NFL players of the world.
Yeah. Affordable, budget worthy. I think that's a great point. I think when it comes to physical health and mental health, you really just can't have one without the other. They're side by side. And what we're seeing now more and more in the NFL and in other high level, elite level sports is people are now having a mental strength or a performance coach or a sports therapist. And it's the next thing that can get them to that top tier.
Well, and it's more like, I don't necessarily think that they haven't been around. It's just a matter of now people are confident enough, and they're confident enough to admit that they have. Because like, I think that's the bigger revelation, where like back in the, in the past, it was like, oh yeah, like, nobody knows how I got here, but like, I'm here. Whereas like now it's like, well, this person helped me to get here, this person helped me to get here, keeps me here, and makes sure that I stay in the shape and in the mental game the way I need to be. Because like, and that's why I think it's so cool, because like they're now happy to like show that they need them, and that how important they are for their career and for their success. And I think that makes a difference.
Completely, especially us, like we look at athletes like the top of the top, right? So then it's like, okay, they have someone that's helping them with their mind, their mental aspect. So it makes it okay for us too as well. Whenever, like, especially I'm watching golf, and like, cause a lot of time their coaches are with them, I'm like, I need a sports psychologist with me. I might not be a professional athlete, but I would love to have one.
Yeah. I mean, I was even thinking about that during the Olympics, right? Even the guy last night for the USA men's gymnastics team, he was the last one. So it was 2 hours of him just watching his team compete and being there, and just, because initially when you're ready to perform, you're like riled up. That he had to wait over 2 hours to get to a headspace that he was able to deliver. And I thought it was so cool. Like, that is exactly what having a mental strength or a mindset, or even somebody along those lines to help you to develop the skills. So when that time comes in life, you're ready.
And especially with gymnastics, I guess I never realized this before. There's so many things going on at the same time. So someone is, and I'm like, wow, to focus when you are doing your 30 seconds to a minute, someone else is getting cheered for over there. And it's interesting too to watch when the athletes come off to their team. You can tell the people who are done, because they'll give like the high fives, the hugs, and the people who are ready to go are very locked in. It really all goes back to that mindset.
Yeah, no, it's
Cool.
crazy. It's wild to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like, gosh, I always wish I could be an Olympic athlete. Maybe, one day we could do speed walking or something.
What's it? Walking.
You're right. When did you guys open your gym?
So like, it's fun because like, we founded Omnia Paratus in 2020, right in the midst of COVID. And it was pretty much out of the situation that we had to, really, because like Erika was furloughed in her job.
Mm-hmm.
I had quit my prior job and was training people, privately, and then all the gyms started closing, and luckily we had our garage equipped, and so we started seeing people out of the garage, and over time it just grew more and more and more. We offered people to come by and take the opportunity to like get workout, or like be coached, and get to work out, and therefore stay healthy, and like also deal with that situation better. And that's kind of like how it started and how it grew, and we got to the point where we outgrew the garage and had to figure out what the next step was. And we like opened doors here at this facility not until April 2022. We went through a major building delay.
Isn't that always fun?
Yeah, we needed to use our coping skills, positive mindset, and many
and the motto of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, and I know you described what you guys do, but really, what makes you guys different, and what do your members, get to experience that they wouldn't somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can break it down in pieces. We try to really give everything that we can, the tools and the skills that we embody, to our community. So, I mean, you can speak on behalf of his part because he's the guru of the fitness part, but I think that when it comes to our workouts and using some coping skills like breath work and calming the nervous system and our communication skills, I think that everything, going back to us, that we feel is important to be the leaders. And I think that's one thing that we talked about initially is like, as the leaders of this community, we work on our communication. We set good boundaries. Try to maintain, family. Yes, this is a 24-hour, 7-day,
Yep.
but I think people also know that our family is very important. You'll see our kids around here at times. So I know that this is a long-winded answer, but I do think that it starts with us.
And I think it's a matter of like, so community was big for us. Like, we had been in very many different environments beforehand, like ourselves, like, working out or just finding ourselves being members somewhere, and or even working as a professional. And so like, it was for us really important to connect, like kind of like the atmosphere of like being in a very welcoming and empowering community, which is really important to us. Like, we wanted this place to be like home, pretty much second home for most of these people, and that they feel like this is a place that builds them up. Um, and so that was one very important aspect. But then at the same, time, it needed to be as professional as we can create it. And, also like hopefully at a level and standard that would, elevate these people to a new level for themselves. And so like, it was like the combination of like really creating a beautiful and strong and powerful community, at the same time though providing a very, very polished and like strong product.
Mm-hmm. And, I guess because both of you lead different ways, but so kind of walking through like the gym classes and then the mental health aspects that you can get there.
Yeah. So pretty much like we said earlier, like everything that we do under the umbrella of Omnia Paratus is guided. So everything is coached. And that's also something that we thought about a lot in the beginning, but we ended up deciding on that's going to be our route, because that way we can make sure that we establish good form and proper ways of moving. And we can do this from like the ages of 8 on till like 84 and up. And that's very important to us. Whereas like, if we would just leave kind of like people do it on their own, it'd be a little different. So that was super important. So therefore, like everything from small group training, which is in our case, we go to a maximum of 14 people with 2 coaches on staff, meaning like every class that has like pretty much a 1-to-7 ratio, so that we can even still in classes in our like strength or conditioning classes teach like difficult lifts, difficult movements, challenging movements, and still or provide good form and can make sure that everybody's safe, because that's the other thing, is that we wanted to make sure that everybody's safe while doing this, and keep injury rates low, right? And then that's small group training. The same thing goes for one-on-one, like so personal training, rehabilitation training. So people that like kind of like are exiting rehabilitation at a hospital or at a rehab facility, and they're done with the covered rehabilitation, a lot of times find themselves not being ready to really go back to the things they like to do. And that's where we felt like we come in handy as like a bridging kind of like support system, where we can take them from where they actually left off, and then actually bridge them back to like return to their sports or to their activities that they like doing. And so like that's pretty much all we do. We work with kids in the same type of way. We have kids classes that are that we approach the same way. And it's really important to us just like to make sure that we take care of our people and provide like the right approach.
So I'm going to piggyback on a couple of things in our program. So with group, we do 5-week cycles, which is very different than maybe a traditional gym environment. So everything is planned out, even as a team. Like we just finished up a team meeting. So every Tuesday, I don't like to say the time because people want to hop in on our meetings, but every Tuesday at 1 p.m., we have a team meeting, and that ranges from like today's a program meeting. So therefore we go over everything with our staff to ensure that they're on the same page. They have their written program, so they have a week to get prepared for one cycle. And it's progressive overload during those 5-week cycles. And I think the beauty of it is you're able to see success quickly. who you were week 1 to where you are week 5, you're a different person. Your strength is different, your abilities, your mindset, everything. So I think when you talk about like things like dangling the carrot or seeing small wins, we do that every single cycle. I think that what we've also done in the last 3 years is we've learned and we've grown. We do a lot of breathing in classes. So our group classes start with breath work because in my industry, people talk about breath work, but then don't know how to do it and then don't implement it. So we kind of, we teach our community how to breathe, how to take time for themselves for at least 1 minute before every class is done with the coach. So you can't get out of it. And it's to calm your nervous system, but it's also to start implementing these tools every single day so that when we do have an anxiety attack or a really rough moment, they practice the breathing work and they can help regulate their body a little bit quicker to kind of come back to that baseline.
And then throughout their workouts, like just to kind of like keep going with this, we build in different challenges, like challenge people's mindset, just to ensure that what we have on our flag, which means Omnia Paratus is ready for anything, that we can hold up to that and prepare these people to be feeling like they're ready for anything, and so like if it's like different challenges through movements that are just that have a challenging aspect to it, where like one has to really dig deep and figure out how to come through this, as well as through like just like an aspect of like we like to work our isometrics in the movement prep and make people hold certain positions so that they have to really connect themselves to like, hey, look, it's very simple. You connect yourself to your breath and you're going to endure this easily and you'll be okay. Yeah. If you just focus on how hard this is and how much you're going to struggle very hard, and like simple things like that, or like the fact that our movement prep is probably harder than some people's workouts. But not to like, be like, oh, like the our workouts are so hard, more to the fact that we want to prepare our people in order to then be ready to go for their workouts so that they don't get hurt and so that they actually feel ready to go.
I love that because, we're in such a society of comfort, and comfort is not good for us, right? It doesn't build. And if you want to be able to get better or be prepared for situations, you got to practice harder, right? And it's like, where do you find that? And so the fact that you can do that is incredible. I always joke, I'm like, I wish I could make a rule that everyone in Optimal Bio has to work out in the morning, because you push yourself, you have discipline, you set yourself up for the rest of the day. And the fact that your programming is all of that combined, and then it's truly like, I feel like such an art. And I want to come to a class. I'm like, I need this, and especially breathing. It's something our body does, but we don't like fully breathe. One time someone asked me, we're like, when was the last time you fully took a breath? And I was like, mind blown. And so like sometimes now during the day, I'll just like sit and breathe. And I'm like, amazing. It's amazing what oxygen can do for your body.
Oh, and you don't even know, like sometimes you just take one deep breath, like really focusing on it. And all of a sudden your body starts like relaxing in parts, cracking in other parts. And you're like, oh, all of a sudden I feel like released. And you're like, it's a chiropractor appointment without having to go to the chiropractor.
Exactly. Because, everything you guys are doing is to help someone be better in their life. And I think that it's so special because our bodies are incredible, right? But we have to put in the work. We have to give it the right nutrients and do hard things if we want to be better.
Yeah. Sure. And that's I think that's a huge thing that we do every day, intentionally or unintentionally, is we challenge our clients to do hard things. And there is definitely some complacency with not wanting to, and, being scared and afraid of failure. But I think that we also have to.
Or the feeling itself.
Sure. But yeah, that will hold you back. But I think our jobs as a team collectively is we have to help our clients to push through that. We have to show you what it feels like to be uncomfortable, because we believe And I think that we believe in people sometimes more than they believe in themselves. So
100%.
I think that it's really important for us to have our team meetings. We also tend to hone in on different clients who are like, feel like they're struggling. So as a collective team, we, keep people on our radar. I mean, some other things that this is kind of crazy that we do too, but if we don't see somebody in a couple of days, they'll get a call, they'll get a text from us, from our team, wondering what's going on, where you're at. We try to bring people in as much as we can because we can't help them if they're not here. Whether that means they're going through an injury, they have a lot of stress. We try to figure out ways that we can kind of, get them over the hurdle. It's not always easy, and we always can't do everything, but say that we give a really strong effort to try to do whatever we can for our clients' benefit.
And I think too, I hope you guys know this, but I feel like other people do believe in the person more sometimes. And even if I'm at the gym and a coach will give me a heavier weight and then I can do it. And I'm like, what a life lesson. I doubted myself, but then he gave it to me. And it's just a good reminder that you can always push yourself or do better. So your work goes a long way. I don't know what I would do if I didn't work out. And you mentioned fear of failure. I think we all struggle with that so much. How do you coach your clients through that?
So I think one thing that I've been saying more and more and more is fear is really what you're looking for, because the moment when you feel fear it's a growth opportunity, right? That's what it comes down to. And it's so crazy because I think everything we connect with, I think we're raised for fear being something bad. But if we really think about it, anytime you have fear in some type of way, it will almost force you to grow, and it's it can be really, really harsh because it could be a life-threatening situation and should be fearful, but at the same time, it will probably make you grow in some type of way, but sometimes it's more, generic fear where they of a new position in your job, or expanding your family, or anything, and think or just hey, responsibilities that you might have had not had before, right? And now you're going to have to deal with them. And so, how do you approach it if you don't have that kind of mindset of hey, wait, this is actually an opportunity for me to kind of step up my game and the next level? Then it can be very overbearing, right? And I think it's just a matter of that can be super hard for people to deal with. And so the way, I think it's very important to make sure that people can understand that. And so I bring this up over and over and over. And when it's oh, I don't really want to try this 44-pound kettlebell because that's too heavy. Well, it's the same. It's okay, so you're afraid of the 44, but the 40 you've been doing fine. So it's time to try, because otherwise you're never going to grow out of these shoes that you're in already. Mm-hmm. And so it's a simple example, but it goes so far. And sometimes, like you said earlier, when that happens, then they can take it outside of the gym and apply it to situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even failure, sometimes that word just seems so harsh, where it's just because I didn't succeed at it doesn't mean it's failure, right? If it's the first time that you've ever tried something and it didn't work, it's not failure. That's really we just got to try again, or I got to figure out a different game plan because this game plan didn't really work well. But, the one thing that I've been trying to do with more of my younger clients, and we even do this with our kids, is be okay with making mistakes. Drop something, call it a oops. You're in a soccer practice, or you didn't, do your best. It's okay, right? All of that is okay. It's a matter of what's the game plan moving forward? What's the next step? How are we going to do it differently? And so just talking about these things, I think, is really important to get away from it's failure, right? It's the end all be all, throw your hands up, which it's not the case. It is if you stop, but it doesn't have to be the case.
I think like you said, like just talking about it. I think, it's, we talked about earlier about just like the mental health coaches and it's becoming more of a conversation. But I think too, just like talking about things can be so helpful. And just to be like, oh, cool. Like they feel that way too, or they feel about something else. It's so helpful because like, all right, they're doing it. I can do it too. So I think talking plays a huge, huge role. Productive talking, not complaining, but productive talking.
Yeah, and I think that that's one thing that we also try to be is transparent. We talk a lot about life stressors in here, especially with our team, right? We're humans, even though, we have to have an ownership role, but what were you going to say?
Like you pointed at me like, he's not human, but like everybody.
I was going to say, I think sometimes people think because we're in this leadership role that we don't have struggles. And I think that because we talk about them, whether it's to each other or, how we handle things, we are transparent. Like life is not what happens at my house at 7:00 in the morning of mass chaos to get out of the house. 30 minutes is also something that kind of, is a part of the process. And some days are harder, some days are easier, but we talk about a lot of things here. And I think the more that we talk about things, exactly like you said, like we're able to support each other differently. We're more understanding. We get it. Empathetic, sympathetic.
Offering different perspectives.
Sure,
like that's important. Like, being like,
yeah.
like we said, like, like a lot of these things are always made out to a negative, but like sometimes you just need to look at it from a different perspective, right? Like,
sure.
Like, if we, failure, especially like if you think of it like, yeah, like, okay, in the moment you might be having a negative connection to it because it has some type of a negative or like an negative emotional effect. But if you were able to cut the emotion out for a second and just look at it fact-based, right? I see again, like an opportunity, like, okay, well, all right, here's the result. And I didn't match the result that I was looking for. Okay, like what's the difference and how do I go about it to like, cut that difference short or even overcome that difference to make it a positive thing, right? So
yeah, and I think that the good example for us as a family was like I had an exam, a hard exam for the last year, and it took multiple attempts for me to get there, and there was tears, which in front of my kids too, which I think was a really great learning experience for them to be like, don't give up. Like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep working on it. And I think that together, it just like at times Eric would be like, okay, so how much did you really study? How much da 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 da? Okay, or you've got this going on. Are you surprised that you're overwhelmed or you're feeling X, Y, and Z? And it does give a different perspective. We're able to be like, okay, I'm not a failure. This isn't, it doesn't mean that it just maybe wasn't my time.
Or
right?
like even like how you were studying or like how you like approached the questions in the test, right? And like I think it took a couple times and then I asked her that question and she's like, actually, like I do this and this and this, but it really makes it hard in that specific test to answer it that way. And then all of a sudden, like she shifted her approach to like even studying for it a little different. And I think that did have an impact on her later on.
Yeah, the whole thing was a really cool learning experience for us all, for myself personally, but as a family. There's so many teachable moments. And maybe because I like to process things, because we talk a lot, because, well, we have stressors. I think these things are exactly what we try to kind of like transport on the gym floor for our clients. Like, there's teachable moments here. You're not a failure. You just got to pivot. Like, what's the game plan? Maybe we need a different game plan.
Yeah, I think like perspective is so, so important, like perspective and gratitude, because most of us, like our rough days are still good days, right? And I'm not saying like there can be some rough days, but just that perspective or just the perspective of you have no idea the role of someone sitting next to you or the stress that's going on in their life. And just having perspective, I think is so helpful and kind of can bring you out of if you are having a moment. Of course, we're all going to have some hard days. And Erika, you said something interesting too, about leaders. Like, people don't think leaders have problems or have hard days, or I think it's a very interesting concept. I think about this all the time. I feel like sometimes we're not allowed to make mistakes, or we're not looked at it the same way, or we have to be responsible for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, you should, right? Those statements. Well, she should be able to do that. You know, she owns all these companies, or it's like, okay, but I'm also a human, right? Like, think about all those things that are on our plate. And I think for me personally, even during this last year, I've done a lot more work on trying to, you know, calm my body down, be more emotionally aware. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I definitely think like learning more skills and tools for myself has helped me to be a better mom, a better partner, a better mental health provider. You know, like all of these things that I've experienced, and I'm, you know, a tactile learner, so I have to experience a lot, you know, for me to soak it in. I think it's made me a better human.
And I think that's like the beauty of life. Like, it's the journey, and you're going to have some really hard days, some good days. But if you're working on yourself, and that's going to look different for everyone, and you're going to have peaks and valleys of it, you're going to become hopefully a better person. That's going to affect everything else that you're doing.
Sure.
Yep.
I want to talk about the work you guys do with kids. I think is incredible because, you know, as most of us know, you know, as a society, we're getting sicker, but especially kids, from, you know, mental illness, physical illness, chronic diseases, cancers, obesity, things that should not be happening to children. And so would love to discuss the work that you guys do with kids.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll start with the movement or fitness side. Is you know, we actually see a lot of families. We train a lot of parents,
Yeah.
and then it was really cool to watch the kids sit in the lobby and, like, you know, either like mimic what the parents are doing on the inside of the gym floor. And we also, again, having kids, but also being around, being an athlete, you know, I can speak as a woman, a gym has not always been an easy place to be. And I think what we have tried to make this is an easy place to be, like a place that you want to be, that you're a young girl or a young boy, or, you know, you pop in here and you're like, I want to be there.
And like, you know, and that there's two sides to that story. Like, number one, like, the place needed to be looking attractive enough to where if you're a young person, walk in and you're like, "Ooh, wow, this looks really cool. Like, what are they doing here?" You know, like, it makes you kind of curious because, like, I remember like the first time I walked into like a collegiate strength facility, like I was just in awe, right? And I was like, away, and I was like, I never want to leave here again. Like, I've been at thousands of gyms in my life, but like the moment I stepped into one of those, I was like, all right, different caliber. I don't know what's going on here, but I want to know what's happening. And so, like, to a certain degree, we wanted to like recreate a little bit of that feeling. It makes it just so much easier if you create like an easy like entry where, like, you know, we have so many kids that come in here and they're like, whoa, like, cool, like, what you know, what's going on, like, and like, what are they doing, and I want to try some of this, you know. And so that's so important because like then you already like you kind of like broke that first barrier, them not wanting to do something, right? And then, like Erika said, is like having so many families and like these kids actually like they come and we don't really have a like a childcare, but we, you know, if children are old enough to where they can kind of like you know, deal with themselves for a certain time, like, you know, we're happy to have them in the lobby and they hang out and like, but like she said, a lot of times they kind of like, you know,
They're
take a
looking
peek,
over.
they take a peek, see what mom or dad are doing, or, and, you know, and then so like over time they're like asking me like, hey, like, when can I come here? You know? And so like we actually had to, and this is funny, but like we actually had to like drop our like age restriction. We started originally at like 12, now down to 8, because just it was like one of those things where like we just didn't want to, it was getting hard to tell them no, and then we figured out like, maybe if we do our part a little different, our end in terms of the programming, then they might be able to like, do it. And it's been working out so far.
Yeah. I mean, you guys just gave me a thought, like maybe we'll do 5, like maybe I'll do a half-hour class, ages 5 to 8. But anyways,
he always goes way too far.
I just think it's a thing. So we do our youth class now. It's like age 8 to about 12. A lot of it is learning to have fun with movement. Do warm them up, and there are a lot of fun animal movements, and our kids do them in the kitchen, and it's just we all love them. But they're the same things that the adults do. So it's very similar. We just call them different names. Yeah. And then they'll usually do some running, some sprint work. There's a lot of hurdle work, learning how to jump and land.
Plyometrics, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We do strength things, so using their body weight strength. We've also started to incorporate some movements that can show us a little bit about their primitive reflexes, if they've retained or not. That's a lot of inside scoop. I work side by side with the pediatric OT, so we talk a lot about this in a way to kind of bring everything full circle. And then at the end, which is everybody's favorite, there's always an obstacle course. The kids help to make it.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
And clean up.
Yes. But they also, we have them touch weights. We have kettlebells in here, and, they're touching weights. Obviously, form is important, and it's hard to grasp it all at that young age. But, when it's done safely and effectively, and it's also a way to build confidence. Like you start to touch weights, it's really, really weird, but you start to feel invincible, and for a kid, feeling confident, feeling strong, pushing sled. I mean, you'll hear things. I had a kid who left the gym last week be like, what? No, I won't say anything inappropriate. Like, Mom, I feel so strong. I feel like I can handle anything. Like I'm not afraid of the dark anymore because I'm feeling strong. And that's the coolest thing.
Yeah. Right. Doesn't that summarize everything? Adults or kids, like that right there, how it touches everything.
And we talk about it a lot. And like I always said it back in the day, it's like, when I look back at my own journey, like being a teenager and like maybe being a little, uncomfortable in certain situations, strength and building strength is probably what gave me the confidence to like go through some of these situations. And now, like looking back now, like it got to the point where that gives me the confidence to, approach fear or discomfort, or failure a certain way because there's that confidence aspect, and it has, it was built through strength.
Yeah, that's why I feel like you can meet adults and you can tell if they played sports as a kid because it creates you in so many different ways. And talk about failure, but you don't even think about failure. It's just part of the game, and you just are practicing. And I think it's very evident. And the kids who don't play sports, I'm like, you're missing out on so many pieces that can affect the rest of your life, let alone being in the gym.
Even, having a coach that doesn't play you all the time, going from having a coach that played you all the time to having a coach that doesn't play you all the time. I mean, the amount of insecurity that one would feel is huge. Whereas, if you have a different perspective, it's maybe it has nothing to do with your abilities. It's just this is how this coach works. Right. But you're exactly right.
Or there's just that many better other players on a team, and you got to figure out how to get as good or better.
Sure.
And I mean, it's just it's like sports deliver such simple life lessons, but they just apply so well to everything. And, and that's just like, we even say like, I mean, one of my favorite things is this, it's like, I always, and, not to get into much stuff here, but like on the playing field, there's no race. There's if it's a mixed sport, there's really no gender because like you just play with each other, right? There is all these things that there's no religion, like all these things like we create in society that sometimes divide us. On the playing field, they don't exist. And it's like the coolest thing. It's like, like it all of a sudden is an environment where like, if you're on a team together, you're going to have to support each other. If you want to or not in the beginning, you're going to end up doing it because like that's the only way it's going to work, to become successful.
I always say if businesses were run like sports teams, majority of issues would be gone because we're walking from all walks of life. Once you stepped on the field, it didn't matter if you were friends in school or not. You supported each other. You were playing for a mission. And if someone else was going to affect that, you would take care of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like the coolest thing.
Yeah. We say that on the gym floor too, because we work out with, men, women, whoever's on the gym floor. Yeah. I mean, side by side, sometimes I train with 15-year-olds, and I don't think of anything different. I'm training with my training partners, and it's the coolest thing to not look at, anybody's race or color or gender and just have fun with each other in an environment that everybody's working hard.
Exactly. Like everyone's working hard because we're told all those things that are supposed to divide us, right? Like I'm in a business group. I'm the only girl. I am younger by so many years and I literally could care less. But on paper, I'd be like, oh, like that's not a good thing, right? But it's like, no, we all just want to work, be better. And at the gym, in a meeting, that's who you want to surround yourself with. Do you guys talk to the kids or, adults about like nutrition and sugar and dyes and screen time and all of that plays a role into your health?
It's kind of a loaded answer, but I'll try to keep it simple. So I think it just depends on where your client's at. I know I do workshops with the pediatric OT that I was talking about, and we do emotion regulation, healthy and unhealthy responses to emotions, impulsivity, inner coach, inner critic. So, and one of those workshops, we also talk about screen time, nutrition. It's more geared towards if you're doing a child workshop, because I think it's really important that it's a conversation with the parents and the children, because the parents ultimately have to be the ones that implement it at the home. But I do know that individually, if some of us have clients that are here for different reasons, whether it's in the mental health, realm or in the fitness realm, we talk to our clients about what's going on, like even their healthy habits. For kids, again, I think it's really important that we have the parent involved.
Yeah.
It's like we can't expect that go home and mimic these healthy habits where the parent is the one purchasing the food. Yeah. So ultimately, I do think that these conversations happen here often, and sometimes we have to deliver the hard news to some of our families and parents and say, like, we gotta work on this. This is what we're seeing. We ultimately want the best for whomever this is. Let's see what we can do to kind of work this a little bit.
But like what we do see is that just like activity for children like has such a like insane impact. Like, you know, like the way they like these kids behave even after a class year, like it's like they're just more responsive, like they're like, they're alert but not like overly like anxious. Like it's just like it's very fun to see that like even that little bit of like just movement sometimes can have such an huge impact. And like and that's the other part, is like the movement sometimes like just awakens questions of like it raises questions of their own of like, okay, so now I did this, like but like, okay, don't I need, like, how do I make my muscles grow, like stuff like that, because they also see obviously in our environment people that clearly have figured that out, and then they're like, well, but how do I make my muscles grow, like or like how do I run faster, and like all these things are like, is this good for me or is this bad for me, and so I think that is the coolest thing, to like just if we can just like awake some of this curiosity that they like just get out of like starting to move a little bit more. And then like once they get curious, you can obviously support that more. But then it's also really based back to like the parents, like, hey, look, they're now curious. They do want to, they are eager to know and to understand. Just, this is your job now.
I think that's what's so special about movement. And it may look different for other people, but it's going to spur on different thoughts or conversations because you do feel better, right? So it's like, okay, well, how can I build that to continuously feel better in different avenues?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And movement, I mean, we support all movement, right? Like movement looks different for everybody. And, you know, whether it's walking or, you know, strength training or certain endurance work or just to mobility or flexibility, like, yeah, like go on with your bad self. Like, let's get going. Like, this is a beautiful thing because that's also, you know, longevity of life, right? It's like we always talk about strong muscles, strong bones, you know, start these things whenever, now, you know, now, for your future. Like, this is not just aesthetics. This is so much more than aesthetics.
Yeah, aesthetics is just like the cherry on top, right? Because of course you want to feel good about yourself because then that plays in everything. But yeah, by working out, you're keeping your body young. Like we look at aging, but aging can be a disease. So keeping your muscles healthy, keeping your bones, your heart, your brain is all from movement.
And then also like just like creating a different mindset toward certain let's say aesthetics too. Like I feel like to me, I think it's the coolest thing to see, like, you know, we have a lot of young females train here and they are not afraid of building muscle.
It's and the coolest thing.
And they want to be, you know, and it's like to me, like that's like, it's like the coolest thing because like I, you know, grew up in an environment where there was barely any females in the gym. If they were on the cardio machine only. And the few that like, you know, kind of like were like ambitious enough to like kind of and like encounter like the danger zone of the weight, you know, they got all the benefits, but like it's like such a rare sight, right? And so like to see like how many of our like women, you know, but also especially like how many of our like families, like children, like have such a positive approach to like movement, but also to muscle and, you know, strength is the coolest thing.
How do you guys, you know, you talked about you have 5-week cycles. How do you program your workouts?
So no, I'm not, you know, and it's actually like, honestly, like there's no secrets. Like it's all out there. Like it's just a matter of like understanding, like, you know, how it can be applied to like our community the best way. And I think that's my number one priority whenever we design a program. It's definitely an approach like we have, like Erika said, we run through 5-week cycles, and we run through different cycles throughout the year that repeated themselves. Like it's periodization, right? And so, but the biggest thing is like, we want to hit different, when it comes down to it, like, and like in modern literature, like about, the science of building muscle or like, stamina and whatnot, it's like, you'll find so much where it says like, oh, you can do it like this, but you can also do it like this. And, it doesn't really matter if if you do like 8 to 12 reps or if you do 4 to 6 reps, you're still going to feel like there's still going to be some hypertrophy, right? So like there's still going to be some like size development, for example, for your muscle fibers. But in the end, like what we want to do is like, we want to challenge our people in different ways. So like, that's what's more important to me. So like we run them through different phases. Like if it's like a strength phase, if it's a power phase, if it's a hypertrophy phase, like we just talked about, if it's a strength endurance phase, and just so that we challenge them from different avenues, like, we get them back to the aspect of like, they are ready for anything because they can deal with all those things. But also that way the body is challenged different ways so that we create different stimuli throughout the year. Like their bodies can like adapt to it in different ways, right? And it's just long enough with the 5 weeks that kind of like the body gets to the point where they can start adapting and get used to it. But then at that point we'll make it a little shift again, and we'll kind of like introduce some new. And so like we usually like create the programming and then roll it out towards the team. And then the team kind of like gets together, like we talked about, like in our meeting, and then we make adjustments to like what we think is necessary, and also where we feel like it's like more like applicable towards like the community that we're dealing with. Because that's the cool part. Like we know our people that we're working with very well, So like, even like in the program meeting, I can already point out like, hey, like this is going to be tough for, some of these people. This is going to be very tough for some of these people. But like, how can we make it work where it's a challenge, but it's not, like it's too much, like, because we don't want to make it too much because then it's no fun.
Then we won't have any clients
Yeah.
because they're walking away.
But how cool is it for your clients? Like you, as you're programming, right? It's like you get special individualized attention in a group setting, because, in order to get results, and it has to be a program, right? It has to build on each other. So that's pretty special, and that you are thinking about them as you're programming, as you're training with your team.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Like, I think it's a very fun process. Like, to go through this, and like also to like keep it interesting. Like we always keep some stable, like some very like pronounced movements that we do throughout the year, so that people see progress, right? Like we make sure that like certain movements we hit multiple times in the year, so that like they also see like, hey, wow, like I remember like in January, like I struggled with this at this and this weight and for this and this many reps, but now I can just do this. And so that's really important too, because obviously we want to make sure that our clientele notices and understands that they are developing themselves and that they might be making progress, even though at the same time we wanted to, make it interesting enough where like, hey, this is fun because it's not the same all the time. Because when it comes down to it, like I could write the most boring programs and they would be very efficient. Don't get me wrong.
I want to do them.
But nobody would want to do
it. Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. If you ask any bodybuilder or like, any type of like strength athletes that is on a program to just improve their performance, those are the most boring programs you could ever find. And they're simple and boring, but they still work. And that's really what it comes down to. But that's where the art comes into play. Like we got to make it just fun enough. It still works, but it's also fun to do.
Yeah, because you want to die a little. Like when you leave the gym, like you want to have like died a little, and then it keeps you coming back.
At least you want to. Here's the thing, and we always try to like get different, but like you gotta at least feel like, man, like this challenged me in one way or another. If it's like, man, my muscles were burning, like and that's just like obviously a statement that's totally wrong, but that's what people feel, right? Or like, wow, I really learned a lot today. This is new, right? Or like, man, this was a killer conditioningly. I really had to like breathe hard and dig deep and like to be able to keep going with it. Right? And like, there's so many ways of like where we can approach it and where we attack it. And we just try to like, vary those things so that like people enjoy, but at the same time, learn to deal with discomfort.
Exactly. No, I love that. Where do you guys see yourself in the next year?
The next year, maybe growing our team a little bit more. I think that would be great. It takes us a bit of time to onboard and get acclimated. And, I think within a full year, probably takes a good amount of time. So I feel like maybe adding another member to our team would be great. I'm starting to launch my private practice. So that's under the umbrella of Omnia, the HQ. So that would be really cool. What about you? What do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is like, there's always stuff, like we've been working on a virtual platform for a while. I think that'd be cool to like still like just fine tune it where it's even more accessible, where it's like even like, so, the original approach was to like really make it feel like you'd be part here, but it's not always that easy because like, we have different equipment than other gyms. And so it's not necessarily always the easiest way to do it like that, but like fine tuning that so that we can hopefully reach out even further, and have a bigger reach around like, the US to like some that maybe we've been in where people know us, where people get to know about us, it doesn't really matter. But that I think would be, it's one of the biggest things for me, just being able to have a bigger reach. Yeah.
Maybe just be more impactful within our community.
Yeah.
Not just Omnia Paratus, but even Apex and, growing North Carolina area. I think that there's a lot of untouched people that have no idea we even exist or what we do. But I feel like we could be a place that could provide a lot of people of comfort and support.
100%. Yes. All right. Well, I like to end with some quick takes. So we'll start with coffee or tea.
Coffee.
Same. Walking or running.
Lately I've been walking. I've been loving it.
I think if I have the choice, I still run.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Mountains, for sure.
And favorite podcast?
I'd be honest with you, like it's not a podcast, but I follow, because this is really important for me, right? I love my guy, the gym reviews guy, like, because like, he tests all the equipment that I get to buy later on.
Oh, I love that.
So therefore I don't have to like, spend the money and be disappointed. So like, that's been very helpful over the last couple.
And maybe I've been down the rabbit hole with the holistic psychologist. Can't get enough of her.
She's amazing. Yep.
I know. Everything is so insightful.
And it all makes sense. Like, yep.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for both being on. It was great. I could talk to you guys forever.
Yeah, same. Same. Thank you so much.
This has been a production of Optimal Bio. Optimal Bio is CEO Tyler Brannon, Medical Director Greg Brannon, podcast host Tyler Brannon, production assistance by Core Media, Beth Gravencourt, Administrator, Kevin Duthu, Executive Producer. The podcast can be found on our website, optimalbio.com, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Our theme song is Sunwave by Paradiso, provided by Epidemic Sound.